folks, welcome to another Besides the Norm podcast. This is the third. Am I right? I'm
the
totally
third
right.
that we're able to use, yes.
Yes, aye. We stories behind the scenes of these things. This is the third podcast. We're here with Ryan Smart on the line. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for having me, boys. It's a pleasure to, be with you, but be on the podcast.
It's weird. You've got a voice I feel like I've heard.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's weird. We've never met him.
Ryan's actually never been on this podcast ever in his life before, and we've never met him before either.
No.
Barely actually know who he is, to be fair.
Yes, but he's got a voice that sounds familiar. But
it's weird. I don't know.
I've often been told I sound a bit like Morgan Freeman.
It's very, very similar. Let's be honest. Very, very similar.
Morgan Freeman's what I've been told. Then after it, they giggled and went away. So I don't think if it was a compliment.
Sounds serious to be like that.
I was going to get you to recite a bit from like. Fucking. Just about anyway. Fucking hell, amazing. Right, anyway.
Let's move on for that quickly.
Let's move on for that quickly. So, Ryan, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a wee bit about why you're standing?
Well, I'm Ryan Smart. I'm one of the Scottish Labour councillors for Buckhaven, Methil and the Women's Villages. I'm standing for Scottish Labour in Perthshire North up against John Swinney, the Deputy First Minister, and I'm also standing on the regional list for Scottish Labour as well. So that's my brief introduction to who I am. I'm sure we'll get into more detail, but that's the headlines.
I didn't think you were standing on the constituency. I haven't. Well, to be fair, there's no reason for me to check up Perth and that, so
no.
I'd never seen who was in the seats.
No, I standing up in Perthshire North. The opportunity came along. It's a hard seat for Labour to take. We're in third behind the SNP and the Tories, but I think there is a good Labour vote up in Perthshire North. Like I said, it's a very, very hard seat to win, and I think we've got to be realistic about that. But there's a lot we could do. We could hoping to raise awareness on issues such as poverty and such in that constituency that will hopefully influence the whatever candidate gets elected. Hopefully it is me. Stranger things have happened, but and I'm hope and I'll fight for it. I hope to win it, but obviously we need to be realistic. And if we could have some influence on whoever's going to be elected to MSP in Perthshire North to what I would argue is a mere socialist vision, then all in all it's a successful story up there for me anyway.
There's always the assumption that Perth is more Tory-esque. Is that accurate? There's more right-wing votes?
I don't think it's right-wing votes as such. It's very much. I've been doing a lot of campaigning, obviously supporting Claire Baker in the Kirkcaldy constituency, phoning, which is where I'm a councillor, and obviously for my constituency up in Perthshire North just now. And a lot of people know about necessarily right-wing or left-wing politics. There's a lot about the Constitution, and I think a lot of people in Perthshire North are voting Tory, because not necessarily because they're right-wing, but because they feel that the Tories are the party to sort of protect the Constitution, which is kind of funny. And I hope I didn't go into too much of that here, but the reason we're looking at another referendum or potential referendum, or the SNP are proposing another referendum, is because of Brexit, which was a Tory idea. I would say the Tories have done more to move Scotland towards independence in the last 5 years with austerity and Brexit and such than any independence party's done in the last 10. So I think I always giggle when people say voting Tory to protect the union, because it doesn't seem to. It's not planned out that well so far.
And we thank the Tories very much.
What was that, sorry?
We thank the Tories very much for their service.
I'm sure you do.
So what about you? Is there a party stance towards independence and stuff like that, or like
have you ever seen politics in Scotland?
Yes, but
pardon.
Like what are your personal views? I would like to ask actually more than like on independence and stuff like that.
I get why people are enticed by independence. I really do. I get the sort of why people would want to vote for independence. Then I get me wrong. I have issues and I have reservations about it. We're coming out of COVID. Hopefully coming out of COVID. We're technically still in some sort of lockdown now. Well, when this is recorded, I suppose. I'm not sure when it'll go out, but at this point we're in some sort of lockdown again. And I think we need to focus on strengthening the country up and getting us back on our feet rather than talking about independence and such. I think a lot of people think independence will help in that, but I think when we look at, for example, let's take financially the debt that the UK has incurred in the last 12 months with furlough, with supporting businesses and such, that's obviously coming at the UK's treasury. And if Scotland were independent, we would have to take on some of that debt, rightly so. And I don't think anybody within the independence movement would argue that we shouldn't be taking on debt for money that in Scotland we've spent on furlough and supporting small businesses, supporting organisations and such. But do we really want to leave the United Kingdom with such a huge amount of debt when essentially starting up a new country? Because I think what we've got to realise is that's what it would be. We'd be starting from scratch with a lot of things. There are some things we do have here. Obviously, I'm a Labour politician, so I would argue that they're not particularly run well at this point in time. And we'll get people going, but it's better than Wales, it's better than England. It's not the point. They're still nowhere they should be, sort of thing. And I think there are a lot of things we need to get sorted in-house first before we're looking at independence. And I think when we look at other countries that have went for independence, we've seen 15, 20 years at the back of that civil unrest, economies tanking and all these sort of things as well. So we really need to be, if independence is the answer, I don't think it is, but if we were at a position where we thought independence was the answer, we really need to be on much stronger footing than we are now to make sure that things like civil unrest, the economy tanking and all these things didn't happen. I think that's really important that we bear that in mind when we're going forward and when we're talking about independence. Will independence always be off the table? Will it always be a no? For me, I can't honestly say. I like to take things on facts and I make my decision on things that are relevant and facts at the time, sort of thing, if that makes sense. But I think there are more that unites us as a country than divides us. And I think if we've not done anything for Brexit, referendums are really, really divisive. For me, as a sort of working class guy, as a socialist, I think there are better things to unite the working class around, working people around, people that would consider themselves leaving at that working class stage yet because they're unable to get jobs. There are better things that we can unite ourselves around, and we can sort across the UK and have bigger influence internationally before we start talking about independence. Because regardless of what we do with independence, it's divisive, and I think we need, as politicians and politicians that speak about this, need to recognise that actually it's, regardless if you want it or not, it's a very, very divisive thing. And I think as a country we're sitting, I think, 48% to 46% with obviously a small percentage of the population undecided. But that's cutting it close when we're talking about that, when we're talking about ripping a country apart. It's a really, really close figure. It's not that there's an overwhelming majority for independence in the country when you look at polls, and obviously folk would then say, but then they always look at polls because look what they said about Trump and then he was there. But I think there's a lot to think about in that. And for me, I'm not convinced at the time. I think if we wanted to go for independence as a country, and there was a huge uproar of even just 40-50% of the country, then obviously it needs to be looked at. It needs to be looked at thoroughly. But we need to be on better footing. We need to be a much stronger country, because it's not just about getting the vote, it's the aftermath of that. It's not just a parliamentary session of 4 years at the back of an independence vote where we get all the powers. It's the 20, 30 years at the back of that where, like I said, we've seen other countries, economies decline, we've seen civil unrest and all that. And Scotland's not immune to that. I think it's important to say as well. Mm-hmm. Sorry, boys, I went on a wee bit of a soapbox there.
It's fine. The more tangents from the guests means the less work for us.
Yes.
So absolutely happy with that.
Well, hopefully that's give you a firm answer about we're asked on independence.
Definitely, and I have to get back at Craig here, because Craig kind of laughed when I asked about what your party thinks. But the reason I asked is that not everybody that's going to listen to this podcast knows everything about politics like Craig does. This is one of the fucking things that Craig forgets to mention a lot of the time. Sorry for ruining your podcast, Ryan, by swearing. But Craig forgets constantly that people didn't ken everything about politics.
I just think it's fairly well known.
Fairly well known, yes. But we might get some absolute... And sorry for anybody that doesn't know everything about politics, but we get some donuts to listen to this podcast sometimes.
Right, fine.
This is for the donuts, right?
Fine.
And sorry for calling you all donuts.
Right,
so I think it's important. I think, and especially, I personally have thought Scottish Labour's position on independence has always been relatively clear. I would say it wasn't in previous years. I think if nothing else, I think our message is right now, and it is pretty neat and tight. It's that recovery. The next Parliament needs to be focused on recovery, not referendums. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the important bit to take away. This is we need to recover.
There you go. Well, that's Craig destroyed. So I'm happy with that. What we'll do, Ryan, is that if we talk about your childhood, like where did you grow up and what kind of things were you into? Did you build a wee den in the field and whatever, like kind of things that we used to do?
A heavy built a den.
Of course you did. But I want to hear about these things. What happened? Tell us about your childhood a wee bit, Ryan, man.
Sorry, I'm giggling there when you were talking about them. I was like Miss Folk in Leave. I was born at Forth Park, Kirkcaldy, and then was brought up in Buckhind in the Bird Scheme, and that was the centre of the universe, God's country. And it still is.
Yes.
It's where I still live. I still live in the Bird Scheme. I live 3 or 4 streets over the house that I was brought up in, sort of thing. It's quite and you boys will get it being for Kenway. You're always for Kenway. It doesn't matter what happens in your life and how you make it. You're a Kennewegian, and that's just how it is. And it's like that, obviously, in Buckhind and all. I had a great childhood, an absolutely great childhood. I had a great mum and dad. They were absolutely still are. They're no deed. I'm saying that like they're away. I've got a great mum and dad. My dad's a grafter. My dad was proper man's man, working class. Went out, did his job. Went at 7 o'clock in the morning, back at 6 o'clock at night. For no much money at the time. Sorry about that, boys. So
no bother.
Can't read the last thing what I said, but I was brought up by mum and dad. My mum worked at Diageo and all, like everybody else in this area. There wasn't huge amounts of employment back then. I was born and brought up in the 90s, so it was after Thatcher had shut the mines, which was the engine of the area, the economic engine of the area, without putting anything else to replace it. So I was quite lucky. For my childhood, I didn't realise I was skint. Because mum and dad did a good job of hiding it, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I think even if you asked Mum and Dad, they would say, "Oh no, we were all right. We were the very that sort of working class thing. There's always somebody worse off than yourself." If you get what I mean by that, it was. But it was good. Built dens, did all the usual stuff.
Yep.
Up the old railway, me and my cousin Christopher. I can mind one. We were like maybe 7, and my uncle Bobby. It really was fly titting. Was chucking out a chest of drawers, and he went, "Take that for your den up the field." Here we go. Me and my cousin Christopher take a 5-drawer chest of drawers, bounced it along the old railway.
That's amazing. Actually, we forget about that. How that was.
The councillors came out and I'm there.
Well, that's it.
Aye, that's fly titting.
Well, that's the thing. We forget that how making dens was creative fly titting.
We had a fridge freezer. That's what we used.
Did you have a socket to plug it in somewhere?
No.
A generator.
It was broken, but 4 or 5 of it, Bairns, carried this fridge, took us hours. We carried this stupid fridge freezer down the field into this tree, and it's if somebody walked past it walking their dog, knew they're how did that fridge freezer? It's not there anymore. I reckon it would turn it away.
The great thing is that you'd be offering people a nice cold juice, even though you'd just be lying to people.
Aye.
It's oh look, we've got juice in this fridge. It doesn't work.
No,
it's a cupboard.
It was to hide it and play.
It's a glorified cupboard.
Aye, but
it is. I mean,
but there was nothing better as a 10-year-old laddie, or a groupies around about 10-year-old, finding a 3-piece suite. Nothing better.
Or a mattress.
Something like that. Someone manky, some poor old dear's passed away and they've threw her couch out and it's covered in cat hair. You walk round the corner after, because you got £1 and it'd get you juice, crisps, a sweetie. You'd be walking round with a wee bag for Peter's shop at the bird scheme where I was, and you'd see a 3-piece suite and you thought, life can't get any better because that's gone in your den. Then you would go up, you would create your den, you'd build it up, the lights would come on because it was. I'm much like yourselves, boys. I'm that sort of last generation that didn't have a phone. I'd say when my teenagers I had a phone, but when I was a bairn, it was when the lights come on or when nobody else. When nobody else comes in, that's you get in. So they would come on, then we would disappear, and we would come back the next day. It was always wrecked, and I always wondered how that happened. And then I become a teenager, and then I found out how it was wrecked because as a teenager. You would go, oh look, that bit in there's secluded, we'll go and hide in there and drink.
Aye, that's it. And
then you wreck some bairns' wee den that they'd built. But it was good. There was loads of good bairns that hung about with and all the characters and stuff, and it was always good. I can mind when I was sorry, I'm going on now. I can mind when I was a bairn. I used to do Billy Conley. Billy Conley, I used to, one of the boys in the street had a sort of back garden that looked like a stage.
Right. All right.
And I would recite Billy Conley material to them. And there'd be about 30 bairns in this, 20, 30 bairns in this back garden listening to me recite Billy Conley or Rab C. Nesbitt or stuff at the time. And it used to bring the house down and stuff. And then all these bairns would go in and recite Billy Conley to their mum and dad and get around and stuff. And I'm like, that wasn't my fault. But it was good. I had a really good childhood in Buckkind. Sort of thing.
You were talking about the no killing in your skint thing. We were sort of the same. We seem to have had the same sort of upbringing where you also weren't aware you were skint because everybody else was skint. So it was just assumed that was how much money you were meant to have.
And you were so skint you assumed that somebody had a new pair of trainers, that
they were rich. Shit. It wasn't like you were skint, they were rich.
See, I've got to say, I was a wee bit lucky. I got my mum got a job at Diageo, and that was key. I folk around about here, I reckon they'd worked. My mum and dad are a lot older. My brothers and sisters are a lot worse than me because they were brought up in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, right.
And my mum fell pregnant, she thought it was an ulcer. She thought it was an ulcer. She went and got tested, and the doctor went, Mrs. Smart, you're pregnant. And her and my 16-year-old sister at the time come back to the house. And my dad was painting the stairs at the time, and apparently, I wasn't there, I was a fetus. But my dad was and if you can imagine it, you'll care exactly what it's like. Can the DIY dads that just they've not got ladders, but they've got a couple of tables and chairs and they've balanced them up the stairs.
Safety hazard.
So my dad's you would never get away with it now. My dad's up there painting the wall, and my mum's at the bottom of the stairs going, Richard, there's something to tell you. He went, what is it, Moira? She went, I'm pregnant. He went, how the fuck did you do that? My mum's greeting at the bottom of the stairs going, a kid. And my sister Debbie's apparently shouting through, going, well, you were there, you're about to get it arms. So that was that. I was never meant. So I get teased quite a lot from my brothers and sisters because when I was born, it's when they got central heating, a fitted kitchen, and Sky in the house. Or for me, my dad convinced my mum that Sky was an essential for me being born, so he managed to be Sky Telly at the time. So
fitted kitchen, though.
Quite lucky.
Nice.
It's a mark of class. A fitted kitchen.
Similar letters, yeah.
Fitting guy. But he managed to convince it, and I think he must have come into money. He must have been selling hooky bocky or something. Sell things like that. Did my dad back in the day? A bit of a Dell boy, but I'm not going to say too much because this is recorded.
Oh, that kind of stuff was rampant back in the day, man. Like the stuff off the back of a lorry and stuff. Yeah. That was huge back in the day, though. It still exists, but it's usually stuff off the back on eBay a lot of the time nowadays.
Aye. Well, my family was no exception to that. Bocky and designer jackets. Well, we say designer jackets.
With inverted commas. Aye. So, well, what from that crazy background, Ryan, got you into politics from then on?
Well, I didn't want to be in politics when I was a bairn. It was never on my radar. I wanted to be on the stage, and you've interviewed Rachel Morrison, who's a really good pal of mine. It was a really, really good podcast. I really enjoyed that and the one you did with Santa. I'll take it how you managed to get him, but that was really good. I know.
He was cool. He was alright.
I thought he was more than alright, but
he's a bit of a socialist as well, I've heard.
He did mention that.
He wears a lot of red.
Exactly. Why do you think he wears red? Just a hammer and sickle he needs on the back of it now, but that's we're not getting into that now. So, sorry, I'm making myself laugh. I wanted to be on the stage. I always wanted to be an actor. When I was a bairn, I wanted to go and do theatre or do movies or something like that, or do stand-up comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of stayed through that through school. It was always my goal to. It was always the goal to be on the stage, be an actor. And obviously it changed. I always had other dreams. I'm quite a dreamer anyway. Like, I wanted to be a helicopter pilot in the Navy for a month. I wanted to be an archaeologist for a bit. I wanted to come out. I mean, can I am that sort of? I was that bairn. I still am. My wife will tell you I am that guy. I watch someone and go, oh, I could do that. I'm going to become a sailor now and go and fish the North Sea and stuff. My wife's like, no, you'll know, Ryan. You'll stay where you are. But it wasn't until the sort of first political activism that I ever got involved in was we did French and German at school, and it was mandatory. You had to do. I don't care if you went to Buckinghamshire High School. Buckinghamshire High School at the time, you had to do French and German mandatory in third and fourth year, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I did German. See, as an adult now, I understand why you'd want to do it, and I find it quite fascinating. But at the time, I was 13 and I hated it. I absolutely sweat. So I got a petition started, and I got hundreds of signatures, and all these boys going, this wee second year's trying to get French cancelled. Come and sign the petition. And I was starting to mind this will mean nothing to the folk that were that had one year in Buckinghamshire High School, but mind the tuck shop area.
Yes.
I can mind they stood with my wee clipboard in second year being mauled with all these folk trying to sign the petition. and I got hundreds of signatures on it, and that was in the space of going to school that morning, because I said the day before I was going to do a petition, and they were like, right now. And I come in, I got my Reggie class to sign it, and then just it sort of snowballed there. break time, or wee break, whatever you want to call it. And then in period 3 after break, Mr. Belford, I think if he's combined with Mr. Belford.
Yep.
When Mr. Belford came chatting at the door, Ryan, can you come to the guidance office, please? And he took it off me and he ripped it up and put it in the bin.
That's bullshit. He's a total Tory, man.
I hate that guy.
Definitely a Tory, like.
Well, he still works for the council when I'm a councillor, so I'm sure he's a good he's a good educator.
That's fine. I'll say it again. I hate that guy.
Tory.
I hate that guy. I'll say it again. I don't care.
But at the time though, he must have. I'm assuming it was a bad day, and he ripped up my petition with hundreds of names on it, and he went, "That'll be that." Then he put it in the bin.
100% a Tory. What a dick. Jesus.
I was trying to unionise their boys there. It just it all fell apart.
Jesus, that's ruthless Toryism, man. God.
But no, like I will say about Mr. Belford, but he was a strict teacher.
Are you getting my hair pumping with banger? Instead of mentioning the man's name.
Yeah.
So I was thinking. When you mentioned the tuck shop area, I was thinking about the times that I spent standing in that tuck shop area and the COVID risk in that room, because people were like smashed against each other.
Yeah.
Like fists was. That would have been brutal in COVID times, man.
Oh, totally. Like that was, you would never have got away with it now. And even obviously, I've gone to Leave Mouth Academy now, and Ronnie Ross, who's a really, really good teacher, and the skill even then now it's COVID central, like, but obviously because this was before COVID, but since then they've put so much in place, saying that would never be allowed to happen. I can just mind just going round that counter and just shouting at the 6 years behind you trying to get a bottle of juice. And mind, no, they didn't do this now. Sorry, I've just got excited. But mind, they used to do waffles in the dinner hall at break. You used to get like syrup.
They were, and by the way, they were like the best things I've ever had, and I've never had a waffle like them before.
You're obviously a couple of years older than me.
Aye,
they didn't exist after I was in second year.
I don't know what year Ryan was in, but like what age he is, but like, it sounds very similar to the years I was there.
I was in the same year as James Aitken.
Oh, right,
so you're a wee bit younger than me. But
so you're like between our age groups, because Stephen's 6 years older than me, so you seem to be like 3 years older than me. So you'd be 31 then.
But when it was only when I was in maybe first or second year that you got waffles covered in syrup, and you would bite into them and you could taste the hard bits of sugar inside the waffle.
Never had one.
Fantastic, beautiful things, man.
Oh, they were absolutely amazing. And you would, because at Tuck New, or where I left school, probably when you were there at the back end, it was all healthy stuff, and you would get like Alpine bars and stuff. But when I first went up to high school, there was like cheeseburgers and chips you would have for your break and stuff. It was mental.
That's great.
So we had that for a while. However, in fourth year, when I first went up, the first and second year dinner hall was at the far end of the school next to the DSE. And then it was meant to change to the ones at the front of the school in third and fourth year. But it changed when I hit third year back to being the far away dinner hall again. So in that dinner hall, it went back to being junk food and healthy food. So in the morning, we used to get like chocolate spread on toast and like hot chocolate and stuff. Oh, it was brilliant.
Oh, sounds good. Like,
see, like you didn't get that now. It's all healthy eating and stuff.
That'd be rubbish.
Like I've got 2 bairns at primary school now. My sister's a dinner. They're not called dinner ladies now. They're called catering assistants. But my sister would say she's a dinner lady.
Right.
My sister, and it's all proper healthy kind of stuff that they eat now. My cousin's like a chief dinner lady. She's the leader of the gang at one primary school. But it's all really healthy now. You didn't get that sort of stuff.
Well,
but,
we had Wendy's chippy in that, so they're very unhealthy.
Oh, I can't wait. See, because you used to go to Buckkind High School, because I stayed in the bird scheme, I would just come home for lunch.
Oh, that makes sense.
We used to go to that shop in the bird scheme. I don't know what the shop's called.
Peter's shop, shop in the bird scheme, or Peter's shop at is it? It's Peter Shop, but it's the Shop and Bird scheme. But my mum and dad would give me like a couple of pounds in the morning for my lunch. They'll come home and just ransack the cupboards and have my lunch there and keep the £3. I thought, great.
Makes sense.
Friday.
That works.
By the time Friday for £15, that used to get you a great Friday night at £15.
Ken, what's weird?
I can imagine, but I ended up with a £5 on a Friday night, so that was fucking awful sometimes.
Well, it's very sad.
15 quid, yeah.
Because I didn't drink underage. I was very much a loser. And so when everybody else was getting buckfast and stuff, I got...
Oh, I love this.
Do you know what I'm about to say? So at the garage in Kerry, at the Sandy Brae garage, I used to get they used to like I can't struggle to say
and we
this.
shouldn't be laughing at it. We should be supporting you in this because we're teaching the future generation about how to live.
I used to get a travel pack of Frosties.
Right, didn't do that
So
either.
what that was is it was a bowl of Frosties and a bit of milk and a spoon.
Fucking hell.
And that's what I used to get on a Friday night. I used to get munchies. Oh.
Have you ever heard of sadder thing in your life, Ryan?
By the way, no, because I was not a huge drinker. I sort of, the group that I hung about with and grew up with the Bird scheme were sort of they became a bit sort of chartastic and stuff.
Yep.
And would have like drinking, and it was never. I was always scared of my dad. Not that my dad ever gave me huge amounts to be scared of, but if like I was a smoker up until last year, and I started smoking when I was in 5th or 6th year at high school. I think it was 5th year at high school, and I didn't tell him until I was like 21 because I was scared to tell him. And then it got to the point that like 20, 21, I was like, yeah, man, I'll pay for this myself. I've got my own job. He doesn't give me money for that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, so why am I scared of it? But even then, I shit myself and I never spoke to him for a couple of days. When he found out. He was like, I'm not going to do that. But, sorry, we went after that. I was telling you how I got to politics.
Aye. Continue with
this is interesting, though.
Aye. We could do another full podcast another day. We'll talk about like old school stuff, so that'll be good. But we'll get to politics.
Oh, totally. Invite me back and we'll talk about Buckhind High School in the early 2000s.
You know what? I'm calling it now. I'm calling it now, right? Me, Craig, Rachel, and Ryan, and we'll get a wee childhood chat, and that'll be good.
Well, after election, it might be able to do it in person.
Aye.
There
you go. Totally. Good point.
Aye.
Awesome.
That would be class.
Have you been vaccinated yet? What did I say it weird for?
Aye.
Have you been vaccinated?
I've been vaccinated, but I think it's because I'm fat.
Well, I got it because I'm fat. That's why I got it.
I got it because I'm a carer and I'm fat.
Aye. You're a carer for a fat person?
Yes, aye. I'm a fat carer.
Yes. So we've all been vaccinated, so we're fine.
We've only had the first one yet, though. You need to get the second one, and you've got to follow the laws and all that.
I should have mine by that time. Right, anyway, we'll find. Anyway, politics, Ryan. Let's get to that.
Let's talk about politics.
Politics. So after this, there we go. We're aware of wee tangent. So after we did the petition, I never really did anything. And again, acting's what I wanted to do. When I was sort of 15, 16, I became a member of the Scottish Youth Parliament, kind of through accident. Right. What had happened was I'd never really been to youth clubs. I kind of obviously went to Kerry Youth Cafe and all that, that good stuff. But I never really did that as a teenager. I had no involvement with sort of community education or CLD or youth work or anything like that. And that's funny because that's what my degree's in now. I'll come to that in a bit. So the youth workers had come in and went, look, we're looking for somebody to stand as member of the Scottish Youth Parliament. And my pal sort of went, Ryan, you're a bit mouthy. You should do that sort of thing. And my pals encouraged me, and I was like, no, come on, no. All right, then maybe not. So I went up and signed up, and there was an election. So I stood for election, and it was sort of, I think there was something about the French and German being optional and stuff was in there in my election thing, and kind of these sort of kids a bit of a one-handed salute to the teacher that ripped up my thing. So I did all of this and sort of stuff, and I got elected as a member of the Scottish Youth Parliament, and I thought it was just a jolly, and it sort of changed the sort of way I look about life. It had a huge impact on me, that one meeting, and I can remember it. I think there's always a point where you can look back in your life and go, where did how did I get to this point? There's always a key thing you can remember. Well, that's where it was in the dinner hall that day. And I went, then I can mind these youth, when I become MSYP, a couple of youth workers, I'm sure you can, Lisa Hunter, Tracy Cunningham, great women.
You used to work with both of them, man. I used to work with both of them.
Exactly. So you can exactly. They were absolutely phenomenal youth workers, and I'm speaking to Lisa yesterday for on a Teams meeting, and they were in the car, and I think it was Tracy Cunningham, Lisa, and Big John.
Big
John, no way. Yes,
John is a total legend.
We want to get.
Do you know John?
We'll talk to you after this because we want to get John on for a podcast, and we can't get a hold of him anywhere. So if you can do that, that'll be amazing.
Is it? We talking about John Hewitt or Big John?
John Hewitt. Oh, you're talking about John Mitchell?
John Mitchell. I'm talking about John Mitchell.
All right.
Different Johns.
I'm pretty sure I've still got his number. If not, I can get in contact with him. But we'll sort that out after it.
Amazing.
So we were in the car and we were driving down past the Bobby garage, and I was like, they were telling me about. I was like, Arthur, what do you components? What's it all about? And they were just sort of saying this one. You know, when I was like 15, 16, and I was like, you do this, that. You should come along, because they were taking me to see youth clubs, and I think we got to the Broom Room, we were going to Kennedy Youth Cafe as the sort of new MSYP to do like a tour, because it was Vicky Wilson that sort of overseen it for Leaving and I was in the car and they were like, I was like, I get so cool that he's volunteered to do this, and Lisa Hunter about pissed herself. She went, I didn't volunteer to do this, I get paid, son. I was like, no, you get paid to do this job, and that was me. I was hooked. I thought, that's it. I've got with my MSYP stuff, I got me involved with politics. I got to like meet really cool people. Some folk would like the film. I got to meet like Gordon Brown and all that sort of thing. And I sort of got, when I went, I gave a presentation to the area committee, which is obviously the 8 councillors that cover Leaving Mine. And there was a certain councillor who will remain, and I will remain there with him, what's his name, but he was a bit of a dick towards me. And bear in mind that I had no party affiliation, I had nothing at all, and he was just a bit he wasn't the nicest person to me, because one of the things that I made a pledge about was, remember in the modern languages corridor, and the toilets at the end, and they were minging. Mind that one of my pledges was to get money to fix them or work with the skill. So I did a presentation to the area committee, and they were like, so why did you get elected? And I went, why did this? And the toilets and the skill. And this one councillor took like objection to it. One of the other councillors took objection to it, and he was like, well, I go to all the peer council meetings, and this has never been raised before. And I was like, well, I'm raising it now, pal. Or what's your issue? And Tam Adams and Jim Young at the time were the councillors, and they were like, look, we'll come to the skill and we'll have a visit and you can show us. And I took them at the skill and they were horrified, the state of the toilets and stuff. They were like, oh, what? And just because of sort of how I was treated, the name sort of thing and all that, and they were really nice. It sort of led me towards becoming a Labour member sort of thing, And when I sort of joined Labour, learned more about it, I thought, this is where I am, this is where my working class values and stuff are. So I went to college, and so I kept from drama was the goal. This was just a wee side thing. It was fun today, but drama was the thing. I went to college and I never passed my higher media studies, and I was gutted and devastated. With Kate McLennan, who was a great, absolutely phenomenal teacher.
Oh, those my teacher.
But I never passed. She phenomenal woman. And but that whole year there was an issue with the SQA and the whole media studies thing. The issues were there. So, because I've got to be in the prelim, and I failed my media studies, and I went into because I was doing Gordie HNC musical theatre, and the woman behind the desk at Armstrong College went, nah, you'll not get into any course, a HNC level course, if you've not got hires. So we could do you the Q drama and performance, but you're not getting the musical theatre. And I've just done that at the school, and I was like, I didn't want to do it again for another year.
Aye.
And then I went across to the Work with Humanities table, which was a youth worker by that point. And I spoke to them, and I was like, I've been a youth worker for 2 or 3 years. And she was like, come on, you can do this course. And that was it. And there we go. I sort of fell away from politics for a bit. Once I stopped being an MSYP, I always took an interest in politics, but wasn't actively involved. And then I got a job with Cllr Baker, the MSP, for a bit. Got a job with Cllr Baker, the MSP, for a bit. Then I sort of left after that. Still a member of the Labour Party, but just wasn't as active. And then occasionally I would go to things and just put my head in, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And then I got a phone call in 2017 to say we're needing somebody to stand for election with David Graham and Buckhead Methil Louise because Jim Young's retiring. And nobody's coming forward. Would you consider doing it? And a couple of months before, I spoke to Jim and David and went, "Did Jim retire?" And he told me no, or I would have. And I was like, "Oh, totally." So I got selected by the local branch at the time and was elected in May 2017. And that's my thing in politics. And I always, just a wee side note, I can remember being in second year, first year. Sorry, I'm talking too much, but you just ask questions.
It's good.
And first year I had a Mrs. Herd, I'm sure her name was Mrs. Herd, was my modern studies teacher, and she wrote on my first year report, Ryan should avoid doing anything related to modern studies. He has no interest in this, and it wouldn't be a course that I would recommend he did for standard grade. Sort of thing, and he just essentially told me not to do modern studies because I had no interest in politics, and obviously this is where I am now, and I just always find that funny.
Was he?
Well, I would have probably got that sort of thing as well because I had no interest.
I feel like most people that get into politics would not have been interested at that point, because I feel like to get into politics, I feel like right. I'll get back into why I asked again why I like finding out about like sort of local people getting into politics, because I had a wee bit of an in that I could have sort of got involved in the MSYP and stuff like that due to going to youth clubs and everything at that time, and it was always like heavily put towards the kids that you could do this, like you could join the MSYP, you could fix things at your school, you could even get stuff fixed in your local area and stuff like that, and so it's always like pushed on you. But again, most kids have genuinely no interest in getting into any of that, and I can't remember where I was going, but it's great that it's always led in, and it's great that you actually eventually ended up doing the things you ended up doing.
Well, see, like, I was, me and Emma,
that was a different thing, I think.
I know, again, but I'm saying, like, it was still a thing, it was still representing your community as a kid. So we were put on that committee in the community council.
Because nobody else would do it.
And that was kind of the big thing. And again, every time I've been a candidate now was because no one else would do it. No. So I've never been a candidate because I actively wanted to be a candidate. I've only ever been a candidate because no one else was there and we needed the numbers.
And weirdly enough, the MSYP thing is done through the schools, but you're paraded a wee bit around the youth clubs and stuff like that because you represent the youth of the area. It's only rightfully that you should go to youth clubs. But there's not a lot of people that come from youth clubs that join the MSYP.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it, like, I was working youth work for when I was 16 to 21. And I've never seen anybody that came from a youth club that went into the MSYP. It's always been, like, school-based and people that haven't been to. And it's weird, the amount of people that I've met from the MSYP, you might even have been one of the people, Ryan, I might have even been working at Kennewy Youth Club at the time when you came up. Because I've met tons of MSYPs and never seen any of them that have stepped into the youth clubs that I've worked in. And I've worked in Buckhaven, Leven, Kennewy, like a good few places.
You were one of youth worker there, and you gave me a round, and I'll tell you if I can remember it. me and the other candidate, Sammy Boyle, were having a debate out in the porch, the youth cafe about salmon. And you come out and you were like, "Oh, this isn't what we do here at the youth. Piss off round the corner." And we were wanting to argue, and we both sort of went, "Oh, right, sorry." And that was it. We got around because we were.
See, I would have
to stare the ambience.
My God! See, what would have happened there is I would have just been joking. But I've been known for having quite a loud voice. So what used to happen is sometimes I would get asked to like shout just because it was loud.
Right, okay.
Sometimes. Right. So that would have only been a joke. Because it doesn't sound like me at all. And it's so different.
It's like you. You bully children all the time.
Does not at all.
Every time you see a child, you bully it.
I'm too naturally quiet for that to have ever happened.
Nah, you're a bully, mate. Fucking bully. You're like Ellen DeGeneres.
By the way, I would put £100 on it that it was you. Because I could definitely... Because it wasn't John Hewitt and it wasn't Lynn.
Makes sense.
Stupid DeGeneres here.
So it must have been. I'm saying, I'm 100% sure it was you, and you come out and you sort of went, "Oh, this isn't what we do up here. It's chilled out. Go if you want to talk about this. Go in the corner and go away from the door." And
my God. Well, I apologise, Ryan, for that time in my life.
I know that Ryan's your boss. He's going to get you evicted.
No, but I think what you make is a hugely valid point, though, because what I've noticed, and now sort of being I've got one more essay right, and then I'll hopefully be a fully qualified community worker.
Oh.
And I'm really excited about that because that's been a journey in itself. But when you look at members of the Scottish Youth Parliament, this isn't to criticise the organisation or what the organisation's trying to do, because I think what the organisation are trying to do are really, really good. It's trying to represent young people's voices. The issue that happens is the young people that put themselves forward for this are confident young people that are doing higher or going to do higher at school. They're going to go to university. They've got an interest in politics, and this is a stepping stone to becoming a politician. And again, people who I was MSYPs with, a lot of them have went on to do that. Yeah. Sort of working in the political fields or working in that sort of arena. Now, a lot of them haven't. I would say a lot of them have went on and did normal jobs and all that sort of thing, but a huge majority of them did. And a huge majority of them got voted in because they were popular, not because of the policies that they stood on or why they were standing. And I think that's because, again, when you look at the sort of young people that attended Kennedy Youth Cafe at the time, I think they probably would have been better MSIPs than I was, because I never went to youth clubs, and like I said, I was relatively lucky when I was young. I was never being ever worried about getting fed or any of this sort of stuff. Like I say, my dad were always quite. I was no well off, but they came sort about. But a lot of the young folk that did amazing things, like when you look at like the memorial given at Kennedy Youth Cafe and the young folk that came together, they did. You would have got a lot more for one of the young people being an MSYP, and they would have got a lot more for the process. Now, I got loads for it, didn't get me wrong, and I'm thankful I got to do it, but I think there needs to be a lot more work done in regards to how do we reach these kids that are again, I use Kennedy Youth Cafe as an example, that experienced something tragic and made a memorial given it and fundraised for it and pulled all that together, and the graffiti at the front, and they just, what I mean, they would never have done that in scale.
No.
And they wouldn't have maybe necessarily been the most popular kids at scale, but they were able to pull together in a moment of complete tragedy and grief and go, we want to do something about this. And actually, how do we get the young folk involved in national stuff like this? Because that's the young folk that we need to hear from. No, the folk that are, and this is no disrespect at all, but no young people that are necessarily go to activities every night of the week, scouts and horse riding and debate club and all this sort of thing, and are going to go to uni, and mum and dad both live in the house, and they've both got university degrees, and they've got really good jobs, and they've both got 2 cars, and for their 17th birthday, they've been given a car sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, what I mean? So I think there's a lot of work to be done there, sort of thing, and getting these young people, bringing them to the forefront of the decision-making process.
Definitely, man.
If that
Definitely.
makes sense.
No, definitely. That's like one of the things I would like to talk to sort of local youth workers about and stuff like that as well. We've always had the idea to get youth workers on, but we've just not been able to do it yet. We've contacted a few people, but
the problem is their ideas are bigger than us.
That's the downside, I think. But again, I think we've got about 10 minutes left of this. So what we'll do is, what sort of things are you going to be standing for in your area? And we'll sort of finish the last 10 minutes talking about that, if we can.
Sorry, boys, I go off on tangents, so I apologise.
That's all right,
for that. this is probably the most interesting and important bit, rather than me talking about how things were at Buckingham House.
We could go longer than 10 minutes if need be.
I was just thinking about your time. No, it's
fine with now. I'm all right with now for a bit. For me, you always stand for election for a reason, and you want to make things a bit better. And I think when, like I say that I grew up all right, but not the best in the best area. I didn't. Mum and dad both worked, but they struggled. And as a parent, me and my wife have struggled, and we've been through bits in our life where we've thought, well, do we pay the bill or do we go and buy food? Do we? You know what I mean? We've had these sort of challenges in our life, so we can what it's like to worry about that. And I think a lot of the folk in Parliament didn't. If I'm being totally honest, I think there's a lot of MSPs that just have absolutely no idea what it's like to live a normal life. You know what I mean? What it's like to be a young person in the start of the 21st century. I think when we're in 2021 and there are bairns starving. And not in Africa, I mean, there are bairns starving in Buckheim. There's bairns starving in Kerry, there's bairns starving in Glasgow and Perth. And I didn't get it. I didn't get as a country how we could be so wealthy and have so much money. And there are billionaires live in this country, boys, right? And bairns are still starving. It doesn't compute with me. And we need to stop playing to this sort of tinkering around the edges of politics. We need a radical solution. Like, for example, the national care thing. Now, I think it's one of the best things that my party have brought forward in a lot of years. Now, it's my understanding that the Scottish Government, the SNP, want to do it as well, which is great. The difference between Labour and the SNP is the SNP want to run it centrally in Edinburgh with these people that, again, I've just had it take issues with because of the idea what it's like, or the Labour want it to be run by local councils, so it's accountable to local people and local councillors rather than it being run by a politician in Edinburgh. So things like that are immense. I think when we look at things we spend money on in the private sector, we need more nationalisation, and that's what Labour's always stood for. When we look at what happened after the war, with a Labour Party coming in, we created the NHS, we built social housing, the list goes on. We nationalised coal, we did loads, and we need that programme of nationalisation again. We desperately need it more than ever. I worked in a residential childcare unit for 2 and a bit years, and it was a privately run residential childcare unit. And for a child per week, it was £3,500 the council would pay for a child to be looked after. Now, if the council had done that, it would have been £2,000 a week because of the specialised care that these kids in care would need, and obviously the time you pay staff and all these other things. But it was still £1,500 cheaper within the council than what it was for the private care home. So that £1,500 that goes to that care home's profit. Surely it's profit. If the council can run the same service at 2/3 of the price. How is that right? How do people get to make profit off other people's misery? How do people get to make profit? Like, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. When people are starving, when we've not got money to fix potholes, when we've not got money to invest in skills properly, when we've not got money to build new skills, when we've not got money to build the houses that we need, when there are folk that are living in scatter flats or are sofa surfing because they can't get in the house. Why are we lining billionaires' pockets with public money? I didn't get it. I really didn't get it, and I didn't think I ever will. But I'm a socialist. I didn't think I'm meant to get it. It would be the fair bit in that. And we need that. We desperately need a socialist revolution. And one of the issues I take with independence, and I get other folk on the left think that independence is the way to this movement, but I don't think it is. I think it's a way to keep us divided and focus, look here sort of thing, while Bairns are starving. Because there are loads of things we could do within Scotland and within the United Kingdom to change that, and we're no, because we're too busy fighting about flags. We're too busy worried about what flag we're under. That doesn't matter. I've got more in common with a working class guy from Newcastle than I do a hedge fund accountant that stays in Edinburgh. You know what I mean? The planet has become too focused on a nationalised, an international look. Everything we do is we trade stocks on the stock exchange internationally. We invest in businesses. We invest in businesses and take orders for China, for India, for America, for you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So to take a step back to be independent, it doesn't make sense to me from a socialist point of view. Because the only way we could change this is by having that socialist outlook throughout Britain. Because Britain's still got the clout when it comes to sort of being on the United Nations Security Council, when it becomes to being part of NATO, when it comes to being part of a key player on the world stage. And it's great that there's loads of South American countries that are socialist countries, Eastern European countries that would be seen as socialist countries, but we need a major country. We need somewhere that's obviously China and Russia would be seen as communist. So I think Russia not so much now, but it's still that we need a Western country to take the lead in this and show that socialism is the right way, sort of thing. We can only do that, I think, as part of the UK. So going back to what it is, it's all about feeding Bairns at the end of the day and making sure that nobody goes hungry and that folk get what they need to get, and we're no lining the pockets of folk like Richard Branson and Rupert Murdoch or all the arseholes. Mm-hmm. If we need something different, and for me, a lot of the politicians at Holyrood just now, they've had 20 odd years influence and change. It's time we get new blood in there. It's time that we do something different and we try and give something back to the people that elected us.
Mm-hmm. So
and that's what
how would you respond? I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't look like it's my argument, although it is.
So just say it. Okay. I didn't mind the debate.
Right, so you're a Labour candidate. My issue is that you've got Sir Keir Starmer as the leader of Labour in Scotland, who's got obvious issues. You had a bunch of MPs push out the most left-wing leader you've ever had, and Jeremy Corbyn. And now in Scotland, you've got a leader whose family refuses unionisation and doesn't even pay a living wage. Do you understand why people have an issue trusting Labour to fulfil these things that you're saying?
I 100% agree, but if you check on the ballot paper, Anna Sarwar or Keir Starmer still standing on the list here or standing in a constituency here. Fair enough, the Labour Party voted for these guys as my leader, and just as I did with Jeremy Corbyn, I think we have to support the leaders that are elected. And I was a huge supporter of Jeremy Corbyn at the time. I thought Jeremy Corbyn was a great leader and got tarnished by the Murdoch press. And Jeremy Corbyn's probably would have been one of the greatest prime ministers this country has ever had.
I agree.
In regards to that sort of socialist vision that I spoke about earlier. But we didn't get to see that because the right wing are too powerful. Keir Starmer, it might be Sir Keir Starmer, I get you taking issue with that. But it's the leader of the party doesn't have carte blanche to decide what party policy is or the direction of the party. They have a mandate because they're elected by a majority of the members, of course they do. But at party conferences and local CLPs and local branches, that's where the policy is made. That's how it should be run. It should be a grassroots approach. For example, in Scotland, in Scottish Labour, we're against the renewal of Trident. We want to get rid of nuclear weapons. Now, the UK-wide Labour Party doesn't. And even under Jeremy Corbyn, that didn't change. But in Scottish Labour, we did, because the policy is different, because the people are different in Scotland. And these people that particularly we've seen in the last couple of weeks, I'm with Nicola when it comes to the SNP. I'm with Nicola. Nicola Sturgeon's no Staunton in Fife.
Yeah.
Nicola Sturgeon's no Staunton in Scotland or Fife or in Perthshire. She's Staunton in Glasgow. Well, didn't he vote for these people because who's at the top? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Vote for these people based on what they're putting forward locally.
It's always been a petty hate of mine, people doing that. That's a constant thing.
It infuriates me, because if you get a leaflet and look at the leaflets and see what they're saying, if you get a leaflet that's giving you a local message rather than a national message, vote for the local message, because when they go to Holyrood, you're wanting somebody that's going to back your area, no back a party agenda. Now, we're elected on behalf of a party, of course we are, and I'm standing as part of the Labour Party, but in Perthshire North, where I'm standing as a candidate, the priorities that I've put forward are local priorities. It's talking about rural poverty. It's talking about bringing back local services. If you get what I'm saying, it's talking about transport. It's talking about investment in leisure centres. I'm willing to bet, I think, 2 seconds, I'll see if I can find it, when looking at sort of some of the stuff the SNP's putting in about, it's about independence. It's about the second recovery for COVID and second independence referendum, and there's other things in there. But in every single person's leaflet, it's talking about national policies, about the National Care Service and all these sort of things. Then it's local, but it's very, very few and far between. Isn't local, sort of thing. And I think look at that when you're deciding on candidates and make that decision that I'm voting for this candidate because they ken the area, because they've listened to the folk, they ken the issues, and that's what they're aiming to do in the next 4 years. Because I think that's where when we treat elections like they do in the States, when you vote for a person rather than the party, as in a national person like Trump or Biden or whoever it is, things get skewed. But when you vote based on the local person fulfilling local needs, you get folk like Jeremy Corbyn and Bernie Sanders and all these other great minds across the globe that are left wing and are socialist would be my argument to that. Maybe no a cohesive argument, but it's my argument nonetheless.
There you go. Anything else?
Does that answer your question, Craig?
I mean, it answers it. Aye.
What does that mean? You never answered this question.
It's a response. This isn't meant to be a debate. I could debate here all day, but it's not meant to be a debate. It's meant to be a...
There you go. It's supposed to, we ask questions, and then we sort of deal with the consequences after we deal with the answers. That's it. So that's awesome.
If he hadn't answered, I would have asked him again. Like I'd done in the Lib Dem one. I didn't think she answered the question, so I asked again. But he answered.
That's it. So, sometimes...
the Lib Dems.
Was that, sorry?
Who was it that you did with the Lib Dems?
Jane Ann Liston. It's actually out today. We put it out a few years ago.
Yeah. All right, cool. That's good.
I think we mentioned you in that.
Did we?
Oh, what did you say?
I think...
I have to listen.
I said we spoke to people. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I'm sure we mentioned you at some point.
Might have done. I can't remember. But I had one last question, and it's ones I've been asking people that have... I know you've not been on the podcast before, but this may become relevant because you're going to become on the podcast again at some point.
Yeah. Shit. Have you done hustings before?
You've done hustings and stuff?
I've done hustings in the past, yes. I've not taken it part in any of this election, though.
Right. So, my question, and I've asked Jane this... there's a couple of other people, but we can't put it in the podcast now, unfortunately. But, yeah. My question was, do you prefer these sort of long-form chats compared to, like, hustings and... Again, Kingdom FM will maybe hey folk in, but they'll be like, okay, we have like a 10-minute section of time to talk to you, and we'll maybe ask you like a wee shitty question, like fucking...
Or like even if you're being interviewed for like the Courier or the East Fife Mail,
right, it's very quick.
You'll answer on the phone, but they all need to write it down so it's like cleaned up for you.
Yeah. Would you much prefer do these sort of long form conversations, or do you see a future at all in these like sort of like hustings and stuff like that and radio interviews?
What we want to remember is the demographic of the voters, and the voters, everybody, luckily in Scotland, for 16 right up until 100 and whatever. Again, there's no an upper age limit. So we need to, when we think about how we engage with people, we need to think about what mediums they're using to get that message. I think podcasts are great. I think I've certainly enjoyed myself today. It's been brought. It's like just sitting with your pals, just having a chit chat. It's not been anything too strenuous. Again, a hustings is good because you get to have that debate, and if somebody says something, you get to pick them up on it. Because I'll go and listen to Jane Ann's podcast that you said, and I'm sure there'll be things that she'll say that I'll go, oh wait a minute, that's not right, and I'll get myself started.
How do you think I feel?
I get that. At least I get we've got different versions, whether independents or unionists. But
no, I just meant generally. I'm going to be interviewing about 10 or 11 candidates. I'm going to have these thoughts constantly the entire way through, because I've made the rule myself not to debate. Like, I could sit here and just be like, well, I'm a socialist, I believe this, you're all wrong. You should all believe what, but I've chose to no do that. And it's very hard sometimes.
So, but I think it's good taking that approach, though, as the interviewer, because you've got to, if any of these people are elected, you want them to come back and you can scrutinise them, because that's key. That's one of the key things about all this process. It's not just about listening to politicians give you their gumph and say, this is what I want today. It's about in a year's time, whoever is elected, you saying you want to come back on the programme, because we want to talk about the fact that you said you would do this, that, and the next thing, and actually that's not done, or that is done. So how was it done? How did you get the success that other folk didn't get? Sort of thing. So it's key to keep politicians accountable. And I think as well, as you can tell with previous answers, I have issues with the Murdoch press and sort of these people, sort of thing. But I think good things about sort of having independent podcasters, independent journalists like yourselves, you're getting it. There's a trust here that everything I'm saying is going to be near enough the exact same as what it is at the time I said it when this recording goes out. It's not going to be edited or tweaked to make it sound whatever it is.
I've always said because like, I'm extremely lazy, so I prefer a lot less editing. So the only bits that'll be edited is the bit we had to like stop for a few seconds. And again, it's just due to complete laziness. I know people that are like really heavy into editing, like small breaths and stuff like that, and I'm like, fucking just leave that in.
Leave it in.
But I think podcasts are really important, and I think when we're looking at the wide demographic of the population, we still need hustings, we still need interviews with the papers, we need podcasts, we need TikTok creators, we need YouTubers, we need all these people to be inviting politics on and talking to politicians and want to be politicians. Because I think as well, folk think politicians and think, oh God, that's so boring. And actually it's really important for folk to take an interest in, because these are the people that lead the country. And when you look at some voting, only 30% of the constituency turn out to vote. And then that's how you get some of these people in power. That's how Boris is in power, because the majority of folk in the country didn't come out and vote. Where when you look at the independence referendum in 2014, the majority of the country voted, and it was still close, but we got a really, really good understanding of where the country was at. But when you look at sort of local government elections and MPs and MSPs, we need that. We need folk to take an interest, because politics doesn't affect me, but it does. It affects every single part of your existence.
I hate when folks say that. Because their landlord studies politics. Their employer studies politics.
The local business owners, like people that like run multiple pubs and restaurants and stuff locally, really do take care in what their politics are. Wrongly, they might be just to get that out there.
But it's probably, and again, this is like this is why I like my doing community education, because I think it's quite a socialist profession. And when we look at sort of Karl Marx, when he talks about the bourgeoisie and the proletariat and stuff, and the workers owning the means of production, the only way they get that means of production is by standing up for it and by taking it. And the right way to do that in this country is to get a ballot box, is take the means of production back for these people. You can take it back by voting, and voting for left-wing socialist parties like Scottish Labour. Folk would argue maybe they're no, but I would argue they are, because again, I consider myself socialist and I'm a member, and I can many great people that are. But we are a left-wing socialist party, and the only way we could change that and give power back to the people is by getting people to vote for us. But people will only vote for us once they start, right, I'm going to listen to this podcast, or I'm going to read this book, or I'm going to take an interest, I'm going to Google what this means, and what is that why am I paying this much council tax? Politicians deciding it. Take an interest. It's so important. Sorry.
So it sounds like you're not of the tradition of Mao Zedong.
What was that? Sorry?
It sounds like you're not of the tradition of Mao Zedong. You try to cut off landlords' heads. Never mind. Pretend my joke never happened. We can cut that bit out.
Because that died on its arse completely. That was
Ryan
awful.
literally left the room.
I did it. You were crackling up, and then the screen just went off, and I went, I think what you said. It could have been profound, but I'm sure it was profound.
It was about counting landlords.
Anyway.
Still trying to squeeze the extra funniness you can get in there, Craig. Well done.
Mao Zedong reference.
All right. Right.
Fucking hell, Craig.
I had to fucking get it in somewhere.
Just finish saying for a second, we're going to leave it.
I've said I'm a socialist. I need to prove that I can socialists.
Jesus Christ.
I can talk socialist.
Right, Ryan. I think we've been doing on the past couple of podcasts is talking about hating, the idea that someone would give you 2 minutes to sort of explain why to vote for yourself. And then just give you 2 minutes to do that. Yeah. So, without any preparation, Ryan, I'm going to give you 2 minutes right now to tell everybody why to vote for you, and go.
Why you should vote for me? That's a great question. I think
10 seconds.
I have passion. All right, thanks. You actually time it. It's quick.
Sorry.
Realise it. See, you threw me off there. I'm not doing it. No. I'm young. I'm passionate. I'll bring a new look to the Parliament. I've got new ideas. I've got enthusiasm that I want to change things. Like I said, I was brought up in one of the most deprived areas in Scotland, and I still live there, and I'm raising my family there, and I've been elected as a Labour councillor there, and I've seen firsthand the significant problems of caused by generations being let down by Tory austerity and SNP neglect, and we can't allow this to continue. We need to take the Scottish government back for the SNP, and we need to get a Scotland that's fit for the 2020s, no, the 1920s. I've been actively involved in things such as BIFAB, establishing local community councils, and try to save the palliative care ward and my ward at Randolph Weems. I'm a trade unionist at heart, and I very much believe that we're all equals, and I'm no better than anybody else, and nobody's better than me. And quite simply that we're all Jock Thompson's bairns, and we all deserve a fair kick at the ball. And I want to have the opportunity to try something different and help the poorest in our society. That's it. That's my sales speech. Hopefully it was in 2 minutes. You got me.
Perfect, Ryan. Sorry,
there you go.
It's still game one.
It's still game.
Knee points, prick.
There you go. That's.
Is that what you actually thought of what I just said?
No. It's just.
You're the only person we've got.
It's two previous symbols we've had for like podcasts like we done ages ago, like a hip hop podcast we done, and the podcast with the Still Game guys, and we decided. I think you're the only person that I think that we can get away with.
Yeah.
So,
Cars maybe.
Cars, we'll do it with Cars as well. That's it.
What were you going to ask?
I'm looking forward to see. I'm looking forward to see if that Dave Points prick makes it out of the final edit or not.
So you want to ask us someone?
There, Ryan?
No, I was just going to say thanks very much for. I'm assuming that's us done. So
that's us done. That's us done. That was a fun.
Day, boys.
It was a fun wee activity at the end there that I enjoyed. Then, so that was a good wee addition.
Hey, Bob.
Right.
Yeah, we could keep you on for a few minutes after the show.
That's the bother. I assumed that. Well, thanks very much, boys, and thanks for the thousands upon thousands of listeners that listen to this podcast.
Absolutely.
They rightly did.
Absolutely.
So thanks very much for that, and take care, boys.
There you go.
And I'll see you on the other side of the pandemic.
Defo.